What if one small habit you repeat every single day is quietly draining your child's joy? Not abuse, not neglect. Something far more common and socially accepted. Parents often believe they're helping, guiding, or protecting. Yet this daily behavior slowly chips away at confidence, curiosity, and emotional safety. Over time, children don't just feel pressure, they feel unseen and unloved for who they truly are. This habit doesn't break happiness overnight, but day by day. It rewires how a child sees themselves and the world. When a child grows up in an environment where every conversation turns into correction, something subtle but significant happens inside them. They begin to feel that they are constantly being evaluated rather than understood. Simple moments, talking about their day, playing, asking questions, become emotionally risky because they expect criticism instead of connection. Over time, this teaches a child to stay guarded. Instead of expressing themselves freely, they start filtering their words and actions, trying to avoid mistakes rather than enjoy the moment. Children do not interpret constant correction as help, they experience it as disapproval. Even when parents believe they are teaching discipline or responsibility, the child often hears, "I am not good enough." This repeated message slowly reshapes how they see themselves. Confidence weakens because their sense of worth becomes tied to how perfectly they behave. Joyful exploration, which is a natural part of childhood, is replaced with hesitation. A child who is always corrected learns to play it safe, and in doing so, they lose the excitement and curiosity that fuel happiness. Emotional connection is built when a child feels seen and accepted, especially during imperfections. When correction outweighs warmth, affection, and understanding, the relationship starts to feel transactional. The child may comply outwardly, following rules and meeting expectations, but inside they feel emotionally alone. They stop sharing their thoughts and feelings openly, fearing judgment or disappointment. This emotional distance doesn't appear overnight. It grows quietly through daily interactions where connection is repeatedly sacrificed for control. As this pattern continues, children may begin to associate love with performance. They learn that approval comes only after doing things right, which creates anxiety and self-doubt. Mistakes, instead of being learning opportunities, feel like proof of failure. Over time, the child may become overly self-critical, mirroring the constant correction they received. This inner voice can be harsh and unforgiving, making it difficult for them to experience joy, relax, or feel proud of who they are. True guidance thrives in an atmosphere of trust and emotional safety. When connection comes first, listening, empathy, and shared moments, correction becomes something a child can accept without feeling diminished. But when correction dominates daily life, happiness slowly erodes. The child may grow into an adult who struggles with confidence, fears intimacy, and feels unworthy of unconditional love. Not because they lacked discipline, but because they lacked connection when it mattered most. When a child is frequently compared to others, even in seemingly harmless ways, it creates an invisible wound that deepens over time. Statements like, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" or "Look how well that child behaves," may be intended as motivation. But a child's mind translates them very differently. They don't hear encouragement, they hear rejection. Each comparison quietly tells them that who they are right now is insufficient. Over time, this message settles deep into their sense of self and begins shaping how they measure their worth. Children naturally look to their parents to understand who they are and where they stand in the world. When parents repeatedly point outward, to siblings, classmates, or peers, the child stops looking inward for confidence. Instead of discovering their own strengths, interests, and pace, they begin to judge themselves against someone else's achievements. This creates constant inner pressure. No matter how hard they try, there will always be someone faster, smarter, or better. Happiness becomes fragile because it depends on winning a comparison that can never truly be won. Comparison also damages a child's emotional security within the family. When siblings are compared, rivalry replaces connection. Instead of feeling like a team, children begin to compete for love and approval. This can lead to resentment, jealousy, or feelings of invisibility. A child who is often on the losing side of comparisons may withdraw emotionally or give up trying altogether. They may think, "Why bother? If I'll never measure up." That quiet resignation is one of the most dangerous threats to a child's happiness. Even comparisons meant as praise can have long-term effects. A child who is constantly labeled as the smart one or the good one may feel intense pressure to maintain that image. They may become afraid to fail, anxious about making mistakes, or overly dependent on external validation. Their happiness becomes conditional on staying ahead of others rather than enjoying growth. In both cases, whether the child is praised or criticized, comparison shifts the focus away from personal development and toward constant self-judgment. As children grow, these early comparisons often become their inner voice. Long after the parent's words stop, the child continues comparing themselves to coworkers, friends, and strangers. They struggle to feel content because someone else always seems to be doing better. This chronic dissatisfaction steals joy from achievements that should feel fulfilling. Even success can feel empty when it is driven by proving worth rather than embracing self-acceptance. Children thrive when they feel valued for who they are, not how they rank. When parents replace comparison with curiosity, asking about effort, feelings, and personal progress, children develop confidence rooted in identity, not competition. Happiness grows when a child believes they are enough without being measured against anyone else. Comparison may seem like a small daily habit, but repeated over time, it quietly teaches a child to doubt their own value, and that doubt slowly erodes their joy. When a child's day is filled from morning to night with schedules, lessons, practices, and expectations, it may appear like good parenting, but something vital is often being taken away. Children aren't built to operate like productivity machines. They need space to breathe, wonder, and be bored. When every hour is controlled and planned, a child loses the freedom to listen to their own thoughts and impulses. Slowly, life becomes something they endure rather than enjoy, and happiness starts to feel like a rare pause instead of a natural state. Unstructured time is not wasted time for a child. It is where creativity, emotional regulation, and self-discovery are formed. When children choose how to spend their time, they learn who they are and what excites them. Overscheduling removes this opportunity. Instead of developing inner motivation, kids start relying on adults to tell them what to do next. This can make them compliant but disconnected. They may become anxious when not directed, unsure how to play, relax, or make decisions on their own. Too much control also sends an unspoken message of mistrust. When parents manage every choice, what activities to do, how to do them, and when to stop, children may feel their instincts and preferences don't matter. Over time, they stop voicing opinions and simply follow orders. This can lead to emotional shutdown or quiet rebellion. A child who never gets to choose may struggle later in life with confidence, boundaries, and decision-making, all of which are deeply tied to long-term happiness. There is also an emotional cost to constant performance mode. Sports, music, academics, and enrichment activities all demand focus and evaluation. Without balance, children experience stress and burnout far earlier than they should. Signs often show up quietly: irritability, loss of enthusiasm, exhaustion, or frequent meltdowns. These are not signs of laziness, but of overload. A child who rarely rests cannot stay joyful, no matter how many opportunities they're given. When play becomes scheduled and goals replace enjoyment, children learn that their value lies in output rather than presence. They may excel on the outside, while feeling empty on the inside. Happiness thrives when children are allowed to slow down, make messes, daydream, and explore without purpose. These moments build resilience and emotional health far more than constant achievement ever will. Children don't need a perfectly planned life. They need a balanced one. When parents loosen control and protect pockets of free time, children grow calmer, more confident, and more emotionally connected. In the space between schedules, happiness has room to breathe, and a child learns that life isn't just about doing more, but about feeling alive and whole. When a child's emotions are repeatedly dismissed, minimized, or rushed away, they learn an unhealthy lesson about their inner world. Words like, "You're overreacting," "It's not a big deal," or "Stop crying," may sound practical to adults, but to a child, they feel invalidating. The child isn't being dramatic. They are experiencing something real with the emotional capacity they have. When those feelings are brushed aside day after day, the child starts to believe that their emotions are wrong or inconvenient. Children rely on caregivers to help them understand and regulate their feelings. When emotions are acknowledged and named, children feel safe and supported. But when feelings are ignored or punished, children stop seeking comfort. Instead, they either suppress their emotions or express them in unhealthy ways. Suppression can look like emotional numbness, while unregulated expression may show as anger or withdrawal. In both cases, emotional confusion grows, making it difficult for the child to feel grounded and happy. Over time, emotional dismissal can create deep self-doubt. A child who is told that their sadness, fear, or frustration doesn't matter may begin to distrust their own perceptions. They question whether their emotions are valid or worth paying attention to. This can lead to poor emotional awareness and difficulty expressing needs. When children cannot understand or communicate how they feel, relationships become harder, and loneliness often follows, even when they are surrounded by people. Another hidden impact is emotional distance between parent and child. When children feel misunderstood, they stop opening up. They may keep their struggles private, believing no one will listen or care. This emotional isolation can be especially damaging during moments of stress or failure, when support is needed most. Happiness is deeply tied to the feeling of being emotionally connected and accepted. Without that connection, even a child in a safe home can feel deeply alone. As children grow, these patterns often carry into adulthood. Adults who were emotionally dismissed as children may struggle to identify emotions, set boundaries, or manage conflict. They may feel guilty for having feelings at all, or rely on external distractions to avoid them. Joy becomes fleeting because unresolved emotions quietly weigh them down. They may appear successful while feeling disconnected from themselves on the inside. Emotional validation doesn't mean agreeing with every reaction. It means acknowledging the feeling before guiding the behavior. When parents create space for emotions, children learn that feelings are safe and manageable. This emotional safety builds confidence, resilience, and deep happiness. When emotions are dismissed daily, children don't just lose their voice. They lose trust in themselves, and with it, a vital foundation of joy. When love and attention are primarily given in response to achievements, children quickly learn that their worth is tied to results. Praise follows good grades, awards talents or obedient behavior, while effort, rest, or struggle often go unnoticed. At first, this may push a child to succeed, but beneath the surface, it creates pressure. The child begins to feel valued for what they produce rather than who they are. Happiness becomes conditional, something that must be earned again and again. This mindset teaches children to fear failure. Mistakes no longer feel like part of learning. They feel like a threat to love and belonging. A child who internalizes this lesson may avoid challenges altogether or become obsessively driven to be perfect. Both paths are emotionally exhausting. The joy of learning, playing, and exploring fades because every action is loaded with the risk of disappointing someone they depend on emotionally. Children raised this way often struggle to recognize their intrinsic value. When achievements define love, children fail to develop a stable sense of self. They may constantly ask, "Am I good enough?" Or, "What do I need to do to be loved?" This insecurity follows them into friendships, academics, and later careers. Even significant success can feel empty because it is driven by validation rather than fulfillment. Without external praise, they may feel lost, anxious, or unmotivated. Another consequence is emotional neglect hiding behind success. High, achieving children are often praised and admired, but their emotional needs can be overlooked because they seem fine. These children may suppress stress, sadness, or burnout to maintain approval. Over time, this emotional suppression can lead to anxiety, depression, or a deep sense of emptiness. Outward success can mask inner unhappiness, making it harder for others to recognize when a child is struggling. When love is earned through performance, rest and imperfection feel unsafe. Children may push themselves beyond healthy limits, believing that slowing down makes them less worthy. They struggle to enjoy simple moments or feel proud without external recognition. Happiness, instead of being a steady inner state, becomes fragile and dependent on outcomes beyond their control. Children flourish when they know they are loved unconditionally. When parents show affection, interest, and pride regardless of success or failure, children build resilience and self-acceptance. They learn that they matter simply for existing. This foundation allows them to pursue goals with confidence and joy, not fear. Measuring love through achievement may look like motivation, but over time it quietly replaces happiness with pressure, leaving children accomplished yet emotionally unfulfilled.